If a belief system.
if you guys just came from my last live stream, which was like 5 minutes ago, where I was doing this, but then I stopped randomly. I paused to think, and then I ended live. It was because I had to help my mom make a sale. I'm in her shop right now. What was that sound?
When I now believe I'm moving with them. Eyes closed while a voice emits from a nearby speaker. Belief system. When I now believe and obedience.
As far as they're concerned, Lee created the universe. And if he said to you, see that white wall over there? That white wall is white, it's black. They would go, oh yes, right, yes, of course I can see it. Whatever he said goes. He was infallible. He had superhuman powers. His word was the word of God.
This is a global spiritual movement, one tied to an alleged media empire, a billion-dollar dance company, and allegations so serious that multiple governments have investigated them. But to understand how I got here, what it was like to join, and why I spent hundreds of hours searching through personal email.
Wait, hasn't Rotten Mango covered this guy before? I'm starting to remember bits and pieces of the story, and it's reminded me of this one Rotten Mango case.
Government documents and archived websites, leading me to an outcome that I haven't seen anybody else talk about. We have to go back to my first interactions with this organization.
Walmart Plus. It's the membership that saves you time plus money with benefits like free delivery. Because cooking food is
In April of 2024, I went on my dream trip to Japan, and it was everything I could have hoped for and more. Beautiful landscapes, kind people, and the best food I have ever eaten. And also, two distinct moments where I had a camera shoved in my face. Both times happened in the same city, the tourist trap known as Asakusa, but they were very different experiences. One of these incidents was on the very last day of my trip when I was wearing sweatpants and an oversized hoodie getting ready for my flight back home. I was at the only place open at the time, Shochikuen Cafe, which only serves pizza and muffins, and I left a Google review to get a free
Pizzas and muffins at one. Wait, what time did he just say? At like 3 in the morning? Is this guy? Pizzas and muffins at like 3 is crazy. He said like 8 or something.
cookie. Great place, no complaints. But as I was sitting there eating my pizza and my muffin and my cookie, two guys ran into the cafe holding
your camera. What? What? M8 your Gang, I'm on a phone. Is that a camera thing? I'm on a phone, a cellular device.
new style cameras and a waiver that asked me to sign, and I happily did with no questions asked. Next,
He just signed his life away. Your video quality. How do I do it? M8 your camera, your video quality.
Yes, I will make it. I'll go to Home Depot and get them to make.
they had the camera pointed at my face.
Any better for y'all? Or is it still a little whack?
Television shows where the hosts are in glittery boxes on the upper left and right corner.
I'm using a Samsung.
Laughing at the foreigners shoving their face full of pizza in Japan. But anyway, the other time I had a camera shoved in my face wasn't quite as fun. I was walking near a bus stop on the way back to my hotel when I noticed that the street was closed off. There were some people there holding cameras pointing down the street, but I didn't see anything. There was no music, there was no accident, there was nothing there. So I approached this woman here and whipped out my handy dandy translate app to ask what they were waiting on. And she replied pretty simply, Pareto, which I didn't speak very good Japanese at the moment, but I was smart enough to
Alright. I'm gonna be right back, guys. chat. I'm back. Oh, oh my gosh. I just had to run over the place. But my dad put water, bringing water out of the car, bro. Anyway, what did the dudes? No, how are you streaming? What software are you using? You ended it? Why? I didn't end. Bro, I hope he's still in chat. He didn't think I ended it. Well, ended my live. Bro, wait, hold on. You need software to... I'm confused. Live stream on you.
Yes, software is generally needed for live streaming on YouTube.
To in chat, especially from a computer. Bro, what I did to live stream is I opened YouTube up, right? I clicked on those 4 little buttons, and then it was a live option, right? And I want to be a live stream, so I used the live option. But does that count as software? I don't know. I think my phone has built-in software for me to just go live on command on YouTube. I'm just making theories.
Piece that one together. And you know, I like parades, so I sat there and I waited to see what was going to happen. But what I saw was pretty far from what I was expecting. As people marched down the street, I saw the sign with the words Falun Dafa, a name that sounded familiar, but I couldn't quite place, at least not yet. While we were watching the parade, we were approached a few different times and given flyers, as you can see here. Most of the signs were seemingly pleading for mercy. They read out as a cry for help, bringing attention to what looked like some kind of... When I was getting ready to leave, a guy approached me holding a clipboard, and I saw that attached to it was one of those little field mics. He asked me where I was from, and I said the U.S., and he lit up a little bit, and he was like, oh, that's cool, like, you guys have freedom of religion there. Isn't that a good thing? I responded to him like, yeah, I guess that's cool, sure. And he immediately hit me back with, well, where I'm from, in China, we don't. Don't you think that's a bad thing? And that's where the red flag started to go off for me a little bit. It was around that time I realized he was holding a little camera in his offhand pointing in my direction, and I...
Gang, you're in a foreign country, bro. If anybody starts talking to you about you being American, they might just kidnap you and ask for ransom, gang. Better run. People like have the survival instincts of like a blade of grass, bro.
Tell, which is where I started to piece it together. That parade was for a group called Falun Dafa, a name that I realized sounded familiar to me because years ago in college, I had a professor on an off day show me a documentary from this group called Falun Gong, a documentary that in itself was pretty tense. It supposedly showed groups of these marginalized people being exploited in Chinese labor camps that were allegedly violating these people's basic human rights as they were taking their limbs and selling them to the highest bidder. Essentially, the documentary alleged forced organ harvesting. And obviously, on remembering all of this, I went down a bit of a Google rabbit hole. I went into this hoping to learn about the plight of a people I wasn't familiar with, but I left with much bigger questions. Some of the largest of those questions being, why do they own so many media outlets globally? Why do they run a traveling dance show? And probably most importantly, is this a cult?
The Chinese government calls Falun Gong an evil cult. These Chinese practitioners now in Los
Of course they do. Of course they do.
Angeles, California, insist that it's a peaceful, spiritual exercise.
Well, you've probably heard of Falun Gong as a persecuted spirit.
Even if it is an evil cult, why are you taking their organs? But I don't want to mysteriously go disappearing, so I'm just gonna be quiet.
Spiritual movement, and it really is. The Chinese Communist Party has done terrible things to it. But she probably... Falun Gong has also become one of the most determined backers of Donald Trump.
Here in Congress, and I'm a member of the United States Congress in the House right back here behind us, I've spent a lot of time working to strengthen human rights throughout Asia. And I've also been a longtime supporter of the Falun Gong and your right to practice in China or anywhere else for that matter.
But this paper gets wilder, with an editorial encouraging people who get sick with the virus to cure themselves by sincerely renouncing the Chinese Communist Party. That claim makes a lot more sense, though, when you realize this newspaper sprung out of Falun Gong, a Chinese spiritual practice that involves body movements and meditation.
All right, tell us why folks here in the Bay Area would benefit from a show like this.
What's she?
What? This is so stupid. How does... In fact, I know how they fall for it, but I was trying to make a clip for you guys. Then I was like, nah, shouldn't say that. Like, since I already know how people get looped into this stuff. I almost got looped in a couple times. Crazy, I know, right?
This show is the best.
The show may seem like an innocent performance, embracing and celebrating Chinese traditions, but underneath lies a demented cult involved in much more sinister practices.
Last year, the New York Times ran a series of in-depth investigative articles alleging abuse and coercion of students at the organization's Dragon Springs campus in Deer Park, New York.
A former Shen Yun dancer has accused the dance troupe of human trafficking.
A few months after I got back from Japan, I couldn't stop thinking about that group and that parade. So I kept digging and trying to find as much information as I could, but I kept running into the same issue over and over again. Contradictory information, conspiracies, and no real first-person insight. After all, if they are a cult, there's only so I can learn from the outside without full integration.
There is no way. This guy, bro, there is no way. Like, I know being a journalist is like, you gotta do your best and all, but come on, man. Joining a cult? Y'all, I promise you, I'm not joking. I'm not trolling. I'm not doing none of that. I just heard a weird sound as soon as I said the word cult, bro. Bro. If this is a sign that I shouldn't be talking about them or even messing with them, then I'm gonna like stop it. But anyway, guys, let's continue the video.
And that's what became my next goal. During my research, I learned of a traveling show called Shen Yun, a show that I never personally heard of, probably due to growing up in rural northern Michigan, but it's advertised everywhere. I'm sure that you watching this have been exposed to their billboards or their pamphlets or ads in the newspaper before. It's a performance that claims to show the beauty of China before communism, a performance that was coming to Portland in just a few months. And for me, it wasn't just a performance. It was the next step to getting inside, my golden ticket to talking to real practitioners. A golden ticket that cost me $110, which could have been much better spent on another La Barbie. But with tickets in hand, my plan was pretty simple. Get inside.
I forgot LeBron had a Barbie, bro. I forgot.
Talk to practitioners, see what they really believe, and if it seems culty, get invited to the cookout. But even knowing everything I did at this point, I was not ready for what was about to happen.
Oh my god, there's a Shen Yun billboard right there.
Is that the before communism?
Yeah, China before communism.
Yeah.
Dad, this guy says that we act like Gillette Labs is some miracle, but
What the hell?
Now, Shen Yun is an interesting experience, to say the least. They don't allow any filming, and their copyright lawyers are insane. And fair use review videos have gotten struck down, so I'm going to be very cautious about what I include and what I show in this segment, meaning I'm going to mostly have to describe my experience, but I do have footage from outside the show, both before and after, as well as some undercover interviews that we're going to get into shortly. The show is at the Schnitzer, one of the fancier venues in Portland, usually home like that. So everyone goods and books like this kind of performance, as well as a photo booth. And here's a photo of me at that photo booth, a little underdressed for the event. Interestingly, there were a lot of local politicians there being interviewed like VIPs at a show about a spiritual movement that is banned in China. I thought it was a little weird, and it is a little weird, but it'll make sense later. Politicians weren't the only ones being interviewed, though. There was a bunch of regular, everyday people being interviewed with little field mics like the one I was interviewed with in Japan. And this time, I actually wanted to talk to them, but for some reason, nobody wanted to talk to me. And not wanting to miss out on the show, I eventually just sat in my seat, hoping to have some conversations with people around me, which I did. There were a few people like me who were just here to see if it was like others who were there for various reasons, mainly because they saw the overabundance of advertising within the scene.
I've never seen an advertisement for this. Bro, I've never seen an not a day in my life, guys. I've never in my life.
Did you hear
Maybe just because I'm in Florida.
about it?
How do you not hear?
Just advertising everywhere.
How's an advertisement?
There's one woman sitting next to me who told me that her daughter tickets to the show because she loved traditional dances. And after the show, I have to admit, I felt a little bad for her because the show was acrobatics and choreography, but something about it was just uncanny. Even just looking at the program beforehand, you would notice that some of these performances have an...
Why is her leg all the way up there? Her leg is up to her arms like she's Superman. Like she's halfway, like, I can't explain it, but y'all seen the picture with your own eyes. Her legs up here with her arm, but her other arm is over here, while her other leg's just normally on the ground, basically.
Inspiration that's a little out there. One called Unprecedented Crime, which details the brutal story of a young couple on their wedding day being torn apart and put into prison camps where the guy is beaten relentlessly while his eyes are literally stolen from his head and sold, all in ballet form. I'm not kidding, that was part of the actual program, but it doesn't even end there, because after his eyes are plucked out of his head, he's thrown back onto the streets where he encounters Master Li, their spiritual guru, their leader, who instantly grows his eyes back by simply placing his palm on his forehead. They also have this giant patented screen that's behind the stage that allows performers to jump behind stage and appear with somebody down on their luck and eventually transcending into this like phoenix shooting lightning out of their hands, which honestly was pretty cool, but was a little intense on the messaging front, especially because right before the intermission, about halfway through the show, there was a
Phoenix? Do my ears deceive me?
lightning out of their hands, which honestly was...
My ears must be going crazy, bro. From a couple to a phoenix. Why can't I unpause the video? What's going on, man? Wait, hold on, guys.
on that giant screen. And they really used that thing. Around half the performances started with somebody down on their luck and eventually transcending into this like phoenix shooting lightning out of their hands, which honestly was pretty cool, but was a little intense on the messaging front, especially
Bro, that's an anime, bro. That has to be some kind of anime. They stole that straight out of an anime.
because right before the intermission, about halfway through the show, there was a 10-minute ballad about how evolution could not possibly be real. That performance led to about 30% of the audience just kind of leaving, which was fantastic for me because it allowed me to actually talk to practitioners at the tables. It was my first real chance to ask how I can go deeper. I spoke to a person who introduced me to something called NTD, or New Tang Dynasty. She said it was like YouTube It's not. It's a TV network tied directly to Falun Dafa, just like Shen Yun. I asked her a couple of questions, but she mostly avoided them, and I realized I wasn't going to get her off script, at least not in public. She ended up handing me a few different pamphlets as well as a QR code for this, Gaijinworld.com, which is apparently just kind of the same thing as Wu Tang Dynasty. So when I realized I wasn't going to get much more out of her, I moved on to the table selling the books. Well, more accurately, one book and a bunch of...
Doesn't that... Wait, because Chinese symbols mean something else. Like, for example, in Spanish, soy means I am. Wait, what am I even talking about? But like, you could also say like soy, like suya, soy. Like, you know that little black thing you put on food, China stuff? So I think the words could mean something else, because Chinese people use characters instead of action. Never mind.
Different styles, specifically this book, the Zon Falun. I tried to have a conversation with the people selling this book, and as you'll hear, that went slightly better.
Okay, so you dancers, they do Falun Dafa practice, which is like mind body exercises. So the body part, they do the 5 exercises. That's the body, for the body cultivation. And for the mind, they read a book, which is called Zhuanban. And the book originally written in Chinese, but translated into over 40 languages. We have English, Spanish, and Vietnamese here, along with Chinese. So this is a book they read to cultivate, so they can practice. I mean, they can perform.
Is this what Fang Yuan uses? Fan Yuan uses to cultivate? Because I heard he was a pretty evil dude. Evil dude, evil cults. Unorthodox cultivation or whatever.
Yeah. At the high level.
And that's the book that...
And you need to know Ball to even know what I'm talking about. If you don't know Ball, then you don't know what I'm talking about, y'all.
It's talked about right there.
No, but yeah.
Yeah. Wasn't bad.
Well, because I think the Chinese communist regime, communism is like atheism. They don't believe in any Buddha or anything. So this is about cultivation, like higher beings and moral values, which the government, the communist regime does not like.
Okay.
So they are like, we're all atheists. We should all be 9. So it's been like 20-some years, still ongoing. So that's what we try to bring back to the China before communism.
Okay.
So communism does not like the country.
Yeah, gotcha.
One important thing I want to point out before we move on is the mention of her being a volunteer. We found out that nobody besides the dancers and the venue staff were getting paid, at least allegedly. And when we asked her about it, this is what she had to say.
I'm local. I don't speak Korean.
Yeah. So are there, like, why are you volunteering?
Oh.
Like, part of doing the exercise?
Yeah, it's because, I mean, I feel, because I grew up in China. And when I first heard about this, I'm like,
Bro.
it was about the horrible extent
Is this some kind of corrupted audio?
of immolation. They made a whole video about it. That was the first time I heard about it, and I was like a pretty hostile to the show. Even I tell people not to come here for years. Then suddenly one day I realized I was wrong. So I'm like, I have to make it up by helping people to realize what Shen Yun is really about, what Falun Gong is about. So that's why I'm here.
Really,
Because we've been like
Corona heart 600,000. Liver 1. Wait, not 600. 1,600,000. Kidney 62,000. Crania. What would even people need a crania for? Like, gang, you can't replace parts of your brain. Can you? Nah, I don't think that's possible. Liver. Sadly, you need all of those things to survive. If not, I would be 300 and 3. Bro, let me.
I have friends who wants to go. I said, don't go. they burn themselves to go to heaven. But that was really a book, a lie. So I read the book myself, and it says, we need the body to cultivate. You cannot kill yourself. The killing is already a sin. Killing yourself is also a sin. So they don't do any of that. But the communist regime has been like lying about this show, about them for so many years. And I feel like it's my responsibility to come and help clarify everything.
Now, obviously, there's a lot to unpack here. First of all, she's a volunteer and she does this for free, which personally couldn't be me. And second, she's volunteering because she once heard of an event that ended in self-immolation, thought it was horrible, and put the blame on practitioners of Falun Gong. But years later, feels so guilty about it that she now dedicates her entire life to correcting that misguided blame. And the way to make up for it is by volunteering at a dance show, which, like, what? Anyway, let's talk about...
Asian people are weird, bro. Their culture is so much different, bro. I've read so many manhwas where if you breathe on them wrong, you can get a generational curse put on you. It's worse than voodoo, bro.
that event that she was referencing. She was referencing one of the most infamous and debated incidents tied to Falun Gong. On January 23rd, 2001, the Chinese New Year's Eve, 5 people on fire in Tiananmen Square. One of them, a 12-year-old girl. Another, and the only one to perish on the scene, was that girl's mother. The Chinese government alleged that there were Falun Gong practitioners trying to reach transcendence, trying to reach enlightenment. Beijing's deputy mayor even said, cults exist in every country. The way governments deal with them differs, but resistance against cults is common practice. A statement that Falun Gong
I don't remember.
it was a hoax, a setup. They alleged it was propaganda by the CCP, orchestrated to turn the public opinion against them and justify mass arrests. After all, this event happened just 2 years after a 1999 protest that I will talk about in depth later on.
Gang, do you not think other people would... That's not even how propaganda works. Propaganda isn't just a straight up lie. It's truth mixed into a lie. Like, for example, propaganda would be like, oh, I have a large amount of hair, but I'm gonna cut it this summer. Yeah, I got a decent amount of hair, but I'm not gonna cut it this summer. Summer's almost over, in fact, and it's still here. That's propaganda right there. Like an example of it.
That allegedly triggered the prosecution of Falun Gong. But since this event, people involved with Falun Gong have made several documentaries, news outlets, and even YouTube channels to push that narrative. A narrative that they've been pretty consistent about since day one, as seen in this article written just a few months after the incident from the Washington Post.
But don't try to scam me. I know ball, bro.
Quote, Falun Gong leaders insist that the 5 people could not have been members of their movement, which promotes a blend of Buddhism, Taoism, and traditional Chinese breathing exercises. But here's the thing, that narrative is a little shaky. Almost every source I found covering the incident, every deep dive, every video.
If they weren't a part of your thing, then why does everybody say they are?
All footage has come from Falun Gong practitioners or people connected to Falun Gong. One of the most visible examples, China Uncensored, a YouTube channel with over 2 million subscribers.
Hi, welcome to China Uncensored. I'm your host, Chris
Yo, I noticed. I watched like 3 videos from them.
Apple. Now, if there's one thing I hate more than anything else,
You know something funny? When I was watching the channel, I used to think, why are they so obsessed with specifically China? Like, there are so many other worst countries out there, but specifically China, they always had something to say. Like, like out of everybody, China plays.
It's
Now I
facts.
see
The
why.
host, Chris, pushes a very specific worldview, one that is anti-CCP and pro-Falun Dafa to an audience that is already primed to believe the worst about China. He says he's independent, but until 2020, his videos were cut up and broadcast on NDD, the same platform that they gave me the QR code for at Shenyun. Oh, and Chris used to work for the Epoch Times. Epoch or Epoch Times is a far-right news publication.
Alright guys, I'm back.
That is pretty much just QAnon. They have a website, but their main hustle are these newspapers. And they seem to be doing quite well. After all, they have Dave Ramsey writing
In fact, no, I should really watch that guy. The little Chinese guy, and see what he's even on about. Like, I want to see how many, like,
special advice columns.
I'm not doing that. Too much work.
Now look, I'm not saying it's impossible a government would do something as dramatic as staging those burnings. History is full of worse things. But what I am saying is that this event, that self-immolation event, is more than just a piece of history. It's a narrative weapon that both sides use to push their own agendas. And that was the moment she was talking about when she said,
Bro, nah.
They made a whole video about it. That was the first time I heard about it.
now while that story is wild, believe it or not, it's not the most interesting thing I believe she said during this interaction. The thing that really stuck with me was that she was a volunteer. It's kind of concerning because according to, well, everyone, Shenyun is the target of a civil lawsuit over labor violations, shady finances, underage performers, and even possible visa fraud, which is bad. But hey, in this economy, you take what you can get. It could be pretty good to be an underage performer because by the time you need your entry-level job, you already have 10 years experience. But since I'm not 14 or a professional dancer, I don't think I was getting an invite anytime.
Guess who's 15? And I could bust a move.
Soon. So if I really wanted to understand what was going on inside of this movement, if it was really a cult or just a misunderstood spiritual group, I was going to have to. And surprisingly, she was happy to help me do that. I got an invite to the local park to practice with them.
So you find people here that do exercises at the park Sunday.
So I can go on Sunday. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
Yes.
With my invite to the park locked in and new book in hand, I felt super prepared to begin my journey of immersion. So early Sunday morning, I made my way to the park where the local practitioners practice. This kind of.
Yo, I would be too scared to do this, bro. Like, even though I know I got God on my side, bro, I want them to put some kind of hex on me or something.
Yeah. Just up there. I wanted to really understand what they believe from the inside. And here's why. So much of what we hear about cults is about fear and manipulation from the top. But what about from the bottom? What makes people follow? What makes people trust a system like this with their health, their relationships, or even their kids? I figured if I played the part, followed the motions, and did the exercises, that I could really understand their perspective and their ideology. And I do feel like after going to the park a few times, I did begin to understand at least where they were coming from. I also want to say that the first time I went, and really every time I went, they were very kind to me. I never felt unwelcomed, even if I felt awkward for being undercover, essentially.
People, they will say, you guys are taught. And they appear on social media, like a YouTuber, some influencer, type thing to spread the fake, fake lies about them. About you might see some on TikTok or somewhere, but behind it is.
Anyway, that's officially 20 books. I'm going to see y'all like probably later today, because I'm planning on streaming like 3 times today, because I haven't streamed in a while.